Welcome to the Coffee and Kidlit Show. This is a very special week for me, especially as well as my guests. This is Deaf Awareness Week, and it's just a week where we set aside to bring awareness to deafness, as well as other things like cochlear implants and sign language and so many other things. And so I'm really excited for this episode of the show. Katie, thank you so much for coming on the show. This is Katie Petruzziello, author of Mighty Mila. And Mila is her daughter. So thanks for coming on the show, Katie.
Yeah, of course, Travis. Anytime. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. For anyone who's watching this and you've never seen the Coffee and Kidlit Show, I like to bring on authors who have published children's books that really are inspiring in many different ways, whether it's bringing awareness to some sort of disability or illness like we're doing today, or whether it's a faith-based book or something like that. And I've really had some really great conversations with these authors. So I'm so pleased to be able to do that today. And Katie, just to give a little update, my latest book is in. I don't know if you saw it. Did you see it?
No, I'm excited though. Oh,
I can't wait. Back here in the corner.
I can't wait.
Never to Build a Blanket For is in, and you can see that the little sister has cochlear implants as well. You've seen at least parts of the book if you haven't seen the whole thing yet. So I'm so excited for that. And both of my books are on sale right now on my website for 25% off if anyone is interested for Deaf Awareness Week. But anyways, we're here to talk about your book and you and your whole journey.
Yeah, well, I am very excited though about your book. I'm excited for the new one. I'm excited. I love Ada and the Helpers. It's one of our favorite books. I feel like it has a similar vibe feel to Mighty Mila, probably because you're the designer for both of them, which I'm sure we'll get into. But no, that's exciting. And also Mighty Mila is also for sale for 25% off, which we didn't coordinate for Deaf Awareness on my website too, with the code.
That's awesome.
Celebrate. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's important. It's important to get it in the hands of everybody that wants it.
Absolutely. And that's okay. You and I, like you said, we've had sort of a special bond because I think we published right around the same area, and of course, we both have daughters with cochlear implants, and we've just been able to be involved with a few different things together, and it's just so fun to be able to sit down with you and talk a little bit more about Mila's journey. So first of all, tell us about her. Well, hang on, it's like 9:00 your time. How did it go with getting the kids off to school today? We're
starting to get into the groove. We started. This is our third full week of school. I don't know. I don't even know anymore. We just started school recently, a couple weeks ago, right before Labor Day here. But it's okay. I have to get the 3 kids up and out the door. They don't get out up till like 7:30, and then we're all out the door at 8:15. So it's a little bit of scrambling, and but they get there. I mean, the school's right down the road, so we walk there. So it's good. So they're all out the door, which is why it's actually quiet around here for
And Sophia, is she in kindergarten or is she still in preschool at this point?
So my littlest is in preschool 3, so she just turned 3. And then Mila is in 1st grade and Luca is in 2nd grade. So a lot going on, and they're in like a bunch of sports and activities. So there's a lot happening at all times, which I know I am not. Any other parent understands the same as well.
Exactly. Yeah. It's fun that our kids are right around the same age. Aiden. Sometimes I call him Ada because that's actually what Esther used to call her big brother. Aiden is in 2nd grade, and Esther is she's 4, so she's still in preschool at this point. But yeah, so Mila is your daughter with cochlear implants.
Yeah.
Talk to us about her journey, how how she lost her hearing and the whole journey with getting cochlear implants, if you could.
Yeah. So Mila, so when Mila was born, we, as part of the newborn testing that they do at the hospital, you know, they do a whole slew of tests, and most of them you don't even really hear about, or, you know, hear about briefly, but it's really not even like on your radar because there's nothing that comes up. But for Mila, she, what they say, referred on the newborn hearing test, which essentially means she didn't pass. So they tested us several times in the hospital at birth. She didn't pass either ear. They said, you know, this happens sometimes. Sometimes it's just the process of being born and pressure and so on. So just go get her tested at 6 weeks old at a nearby children's hospital. So we kind of didn't really think too much of it because we don't have any kind of hearing loss on either side of our family. And we went and took her, you know, at 6 weeks or so to a children's hospital and did a ABR test, which is an auditory brainstem response test, which basically they put like little electrodes or so on the baby to sleep, and they measure brain waves as they hear different levels of sound. And the results came back within normal limits. And the doctor said it's probably just a blip, you know, maybe nothing to worry about. Just keep an eye on her developmentally and see if she's responding to sound, looking, I mean, she's a baby, right? So responding to sound, she's not babbling, things like that. And just if you have any issues, come back in, or otherwise just have your doctor check her at her 1 year appointment. So nothing. She's totally typical behavior in terms of listening, responding to sounds. It totally went to the back of our head as like, oh, that was a weird little thing at birth. And at the 1 year doctor's appointment, she didn't pass the test. But again, like we weren't even like stressed about it then, because the test that the pediatrician had is a very finicky test where she has to stay exactly still. And she was moving around and she was crying and whatever. So the doctor was like, it's not a reliable result. Just go take her to the audiologist to go check. So everybody's telling us, the right thing. So we still at that point really didn't think anything of it. And I went to the audiologist by myself at that point because we're like, all right, let's just go cross our T's, dot our I's, and just get her checked out. Well, she didn't pass the audiology test. And that's when we realized it was real. And I remember going in, they do like a booth test where you sit in the soundproof booth with, I know you know this, Travis, but for those that may or aren't as familiar, sit in a soundproof booth with the baby. They play sounds at a different speakers, and they expect the baby to look over to the sounds. This is crazy that these babies that this is a reliable response, because she's kind of looking, but some of them that are low, she's not really looking, but maybe she just doesn't care. Like it's like a very low sound. So I'm talking to the doctor afterward, and they're like, no, these are actually really reliable. We can and some other tests they did, they said she has mild to moderate hearing loss, and she's going to need hearing aids now for the rest of her life. And I remember being like, what? I'm sorry, what? Like, what are you talking about? Right? Like for the rest of her life, I just knew nothing about it. And so that kind of catapulted us into multiple follow-ups, coming to an understanding of things, lots of tactical research, and just we just went into like full execution mode. And it turned out she did have mild to moderate hearing losses, which she had done an exceptionally great job at compensating for. And, she heard enough, but she wasn't hearing everything. So she got hearing aids right after, very shortly after it was identified, and started her an early intervention therapy, which she had 5 times a week, speech therapy, a special teacher of the deaf. And everything stayed stable. She started, she was going to hearing appointments very frequently to start with, and then a little less frequently. Things were staying stable. All right, we did genetic testing, no idea where it came from. And when she was about 2.5 years old, all of a sudden her hearing test started dropping a little bit. And then the next test dropped a little bit more. And then it kept dropping, and they kept turning up the hearing aids to the point where the hearing aids couldn't fill in the gaps anymore, because the hearing aids, as you know, Travis, they amplify sound, but they don't help make it clearer. And there's only so much you can amplify a high-pitched sound, such as, like, I can't yell, it only gets so loud. So she was losing all of the high-pitched sounds, and she was speaking really well, but all of a sudden everybody was he. There was no she's anymore. You know, when kiss was like she just didn't hear anything. And like a lot of the words, the way that they're meant to be said, right? And so you could hear her speech started changing. So we were advised, you know, that you can consider cochlear implants. It was really cochlear implants or continue with the hearing aids, but she'll never be able to hear those sounds again if you don't go cochlear implants. And her speech will be affected and what she'd be able to hear will be affected. So, you know, this is a big decision for any person or any family to make for their child. It wasn't one we took lightly, but we also knew that she grew up hearing, she loved music, she loved sound. And for us, it was an easy decision that we wanted to help restore her ability to have access to that sound. And so we got her cochlear implants shortly afterwards. And it was right before the pandemic. Like literally, she was probably one of the last patients that was seen before elective surgery was discontinued. She was activated in March 2020. And she did great. It was a quick surgery. She was out the same day, dancing around with a little bandage on her head. And she had minimal to no pain. I don't really remember her having any discomfort, really. I mean, you know, she had medicine and stuff, but, and within a few days to a week or so of her being activated, she was understanding sound again, which is really impressive because your brain has to remap to hearing electronically because the sound comes in, as you know, through electronic processors and goes into an electrode array that is essentially wrapped around your cochlea and stimulates the auditory nerve. So it's a different way of hearing. So your brain needs to understand it, but she was very agile. So she did great. And she caught back up to kind of where she had been beforehand. And we've never, you know, looked back, and she's been doing really well. She continues to get therapy, but you know, Travis, as you know, like cochlear implants is not restoring hearing. It's not perfect hearing. It's still lots of challenges with background sound, not being able to distill out background sound, localizing where sound is coming from, challenges in social settings where there's just a lot going on at once, she's working extra hard to hear. So she gets tired quicker because her brain has to do extra steps to understand the sound it's hearing. So she can melt down at the end of the day. Auditory fatigue is a real thing, which I'm sure you probably see also with Esther. But
absolutely,
she's doing great. She continues to get really good support through the school. She's in mainstream first grade right now, and doing really well. Yeah. So sorry, that's a very long answer, but that are interested in the journey, which I know those outside of the hearing loss community tend to, you know, find it interesting. So
I'm just pulling up the spread in the back of your book with a picture of Mila, which is a couple of years old now, I guess.
Yeah.
And she's in school now. So what is it? You talked a little bit about the fatigue, but what has it been like for her with adjusting to school and all of that?
Good. You know, she's doing great in school. We have an option to have her in a class that's called an integrated co-teach class, where they have, it's a mix of kids that have IEPs, so individualized education plans, as well as gen ed kids who don't have IEPs. So there's a gen ed teacher and a special ed teacher in the room together, co-teaching all of the children. So the children don't know who the special ed teacher is, who the gen ed teacher is. They do a little bit more of a breakout in like small circle times, and they make time for those kids that need to be pulled out for services, where the other kids that may not need to be pulled out are doing, you know, study and rework and just, you know, not learning new things. So it's been working really well. Like there's only 14 kids in her class with 2 teachers and an aide. The teachers are great. They wear an FM device, which for those that don't know is a special microphone that connects into a little piece that goes on Mila's cochlear implant processor, which helps to make the teacher's voice more clear in her head. It's not just makes it louder, like the teachers sure they can project their voice, but with all the background sound and just the larger classroom and kids scuffling their feet and moving around, sound gets distorted. So this helps the voice go straight into her cochlear implants. which is great. So she's in charge every morning of getting the FM device, turning it on, bringing it to her teacher. The teachers, part of like what we have in our IEPs, that the teachers do like this thing called sabotage, where they try to get Mila to learn to advocate for herself. So they'll purposefully not mute it when they're talking to like another student. So Mila is expected to say, "Excuse me, you didn't mute it," or they won't turn it on. She'll say, "You didn't turn it on." So they're trying to teach her to advocate for herself about.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really good. And so there's a lot of great things that she's doing in school, and her teacher of the deaf comes 3 times a week and pulls her out twice and pushes in once to see her and to help with advocating. And in the beginning of the year, she works with Mila on doing a presentation for the rest of the kids in her class to tell them about her cochlear implants and to explain to the kids, like I think it's really important up front to explain for kids to be able to have the opportunity to explain to their peers. And at a really young age, right? She's only 5, but like she's still getting up with her teacher of the deaf and saying, "These are my cochlear implants. This is how it works. And then this is how kids in my class can help me hear better. Don't muffle, don't cover your hand, your mouth, don't turn aside." So she's doing a lot of work with like advocating, and we've had really good support, which, I mean, that make or break anything, right? Like the support that you get, whether it's in the classroom or specialists outside, like it's so critical, because I only know what I'm doing because they help me. So yeah, but she's adapting well though to it. And she's just a typical 5-year-old that just happens to have a little different way of hearing and some more challenges hearing than her peers.
I think that's so great that they're kind of challenging her a little bit and helping her to advocate for herself, because that's such a huge lesson for really all kids, but kids with CIs to learn how to do that. And yeah, that's awesome. I need to remember that when Esther starts school.
Yeah. I'll send you all the accommodations we get, Travis, so you know
what
what's possible to ask for.
Yeah. So you wrote Mighty Mila, which is, of course, about Mila. Tell us about the book itself and just kind of give us the summary of that.
Yeah. So the book came about because shortly after she got cochlear implants, Mila was flipping through her books one night, and she was looking at this one particular book that has like a ton of characters in it. And I saw her getting upset and just looking like really closely at all the characters. And I asked her why. I had a feeling I knew why. And she's like, she's like, "Why does no one have cochlear implants in this book?" And I was like, "Well, we have other books with characters with cochlear implants, and that, the ones we had at the time were ones that we had gotten prior to her getting her surgery that had helped us explain to a 3-year-old that you're going to be getting cochlear implants." So we did it through storybooks. So there's a number of good books out there on the market that are about so-and-so going to get cochlear implants, so-and-so having hearing devices. And she's like, "But I don't want to, like, those are the hearing loss books. Like, I wanted, like, how come no one's in my fun books, like, with cochlear implants?" And so it made me realize that we really need to normalize cochlear implants and hearing loss and deafness, and not just see it only in books that are about the character's medical journey and the focus is on hearing loss. Those are great. I mean, those definitely are necessary, and those were so key to helping us guide Mila through and us through the process. But then it's like, but then what? Like, the kids also need to see themselves as regular kids. So it started there that I started working on Mighty Mila, and it, at night after kids and real job were, done, and took about 1.5 years to do. And, the Mighty Mila is a story about a little girl who happens to be deaf and have cochlear implants, but it's focused on the fact that she wants to prove that to her family that she's a big kid and that she can do everything all on her own. And as she progresses through the story and trying to do things on her own, it gets harder and harder until she realizes, epiphany, that you actually have to ask for help, and that's okay, because big kids do ask for help, right? So it's a story about being a big kid, asking for help, independence, but also relying on others. And throughout the story, little tidbits about her cochlear implants are woven in, just to add some awareness, but not to override the story with a heavy medical focus. And so the reason why I did it that way is because I wanted kids to be able to, deaf and hard of hearing kids to be able to have a book where they're represented as typical regular kids that they are. So they can see themselves as the main character and not just a character in the background that happens to have cochlear implants and it's somebody else's story. But then also a book that kids that are outside the hearing loss community that maybe never met anybody with cochlear implants, never met anyone that was deaf or with hearing devices, that they would be more likely probably to pick up and read and see that, deaf, hard of hearing kids are more like them than not. And they're more likely to do that in a fun storybook rather than something that's focused on going to the doctor. So that was a big piece of it. And then the third piece of like my mission for writing this book was to build in supplemental activities at the back to help educators and, in my mind, therapists that are working with any kid, whether they're deaf, hard of hearing or not, or parents, that they can use to help develop language, comprehension skills. So there's a lot of I Spy type activities, although I call them listen and look activities, in the back, where there's a description of an illustration in the book, and then the kid has to understand and go back into the story to try to find that illustration. And I mean, my kids before this, they make me pull up picture books, and they don't even want to hear the story half the time. They're just like, Mom, tell me to find something on the page. Like they always just. So then I was like, you know what? I feel like other kids will like this stuff too. So yeah, so here these are, like going back to like Mila's bedroom scene, like find an ocean animal with long arms. So the thought is like that it's helping to develop language, that vocabulary that they need to identify that the word is octopus, and they need to find the little octopus in that scene. So there's this, and then also I have separately on my website a 66-page activity educational plan that goes along with the book that's free to anybody, because I want to make it as easy as possible for educators, therapists to pick up the book and just like just use it with your kids. Don't have to do pre-work, like just here you go, here's everything, go at it. It's just to try to get it into as many hands as possible and help raise awareness that way.
And what's your website?
www.mightymila.com.
Yeah.
And then those activities on the resources page.
Yeah. As you're talking, I'm realizing there's really 3 different categories of books with, it could be anything, whether it's cochlear implants or other awareness books for different disabilities. You have the ones that you talked about where they're kind of explaining the journey of getting cochlear implants, or why you need them or what they're for. And then you also have on the flip side, there's books where it's just sort of a character in the background with cochlear implants.
Yeah.
They're just there and maybe on one page and that's it. But there's very few in between. And so that's kind of what you've tried to focus on with Mighty Mila, is sort of introducing a main character with cochlear implants that maybe the story itself doesn't have a whole lot to do with her hearing, but it's just, it's a story that everyday kids of all types can relate to. They want to be big. They want to be able to do things on their own. And I think that's awesome. We need more books. Like you said, we need more books like that. And we need our kids to be able to see those characters as well.
Yeah. And honestly, Travis, and I'm not just because I'm talking to you specifically, but like my book and your book are some of the only books I think that fall into that category, because Ada and the Helpers is a fun story. And sure, Ada's deaf, right? And has hearing devices, but like there's a story that's not about her, hearing loss journey. And I love that you put the ASL into there and everything. So that's why, it's funny because you were ahead of me in the book publishing journey when we connected.
Was I?
Yeah, because you came out with Ada before you came, right? Because that was October, and you were.
Yeah, I guess so.
That, right?
Yeah.
But that's why I remember being like, this is perfect, because we met you, obviously, like we align, like our family, you know, the fact that we both have daughters that have cochlear implants, and then our books are somewhat similar in that way, you know, that the main character is a fun story and the main character is deaf. And then I was very excited when I found out you were also a book designer. So
Yeah.
that fact that like that you helped to design Mighty Mila is just, I don't know. I think I always like telling people that like you're the designer and that you're the dad of a girl with cochlear implants. And I think it's just really special. So.
I appreciate that. And just a shout out to all aspiring authors out there. If you are wanting to write a book on any disability, illness, awareness of anything, we need more books with main characters with those things that are just doing life.
Yeah.
So help us out. Let's get more books out there.
But I will say too, I do also appreciate those individuals that are putting characters with disabilities even in the background, right? Like maybe the main character doesn't have a disability. Okay. But I think it's also very thoughtful when individuals incorporate differences, disabilities, different ethnicities, just all kinds of differences into other characters in their stories. So I think that's important too, to have the background characters also have. I'd love to see more books where background characters also have cochlear implants. But yes, main characters, that would be really, really good.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if it can't be the main character, a supplementary character, I'll take it.
Each category has its own great need, and you're right. I mean, we still need more books out there that kind of explain the whole journey. Honestly, we don't have any. I know there are some out there, and maybe I need to start ordering those books. But yeah, all three of those categories we need them. So that's great. So we talked a little bit about advocacy, but why is it so important for us as parents to advocate for our kids, but also teach them how to advocate for themselves?
Oh man. I mean, it's really important. People just don't understand, right? Like it's not possible for any person to understand everything there is to know about all the differences and disabilities in the world. So I truly think that people want to help those that have challenges, but if they don't know how to help, they don't always know to ask how to help. So I think that it's important for individuals that have needs, special needs, disabilities, differences, to learn to advocate for themselves. And when they can't advocate for themselves, to have someone there to advocate for them, or a combination of both, right? And so obviously little kids can't fully advocate for themselves. So you got to do it for them, right? Like the parent is the one that really, you have a lot of people that are there to help you, but it's up to you as the parent to really push for what you need. And when you come to, say, school settings, or there's a lot of competing needs for sometimes a very small amount of resources. And I think that with deafness in particular, as you know, there's others, but it may be something where administration or individual, luckily we haven't encountered this, but like others may think, well, I mean, I've heard so many stories of people being like, well, they have one hearing aid, even though they're, they have hearing loss on the other side. They only need insurance, they only need one hearing aid because they can hear out of their left ear. They don't need to hear out of their right ear. Like, are you kidding me? Like, it's just, there's so much of that happening where people are turned down for hearing devices on the other ear because people that just don't understand how life impacting it is to not have bilateral. It's just different. It's not the same as having bilateral hearing. Like it's having something is not good enough as having what you need. Right. So it's important to advocate, I think, at all levels, to make sure that you educate people about why it's necessary for your kids to have, say, preferential seating, which doesn't mean that they get, sure, like Mila needs to sit at the front of the class and to the side. And it's not just, because it's not just for a whim, like let me make her sit in the front, but it's because if there's children in front of her that are moving around, she'll get distracted. And if she's looking at them, she doesn't hear sounds. She doesn't pick up peripheral language, right? Like if I'm sitting somewhere and someone's talking over there, I'm talking to you, I probably am picking up a good amount of what they're saying. Mila's not. She's not focused on what you're saying. She's not hearing it. And so in classrooms, if she's not looking at the teacher and the teacher's not looking at her, and there's someone fidgeting or doing something on the side or talking, she's not picking up the language. So like, I think that's just one example, but like by explaining to people why that is, I think for the most part they get it, but you have to arm yourself with the information. You need to be able to explain it. And that's what's hard. And I feel like as a parent, like that's where I get like very overwhelmed because like, I'm not an expert at this, right? I'm learning this as I go, as you are, right? Like I didn't know anything about any of this before her hearing loss was identified, and I'm learning along the way. But I think it's important to have like the team of people that are helping you understand like what should you push for your child, and then if you need to bring them into the meetings, and just keep pushing and again, like help your kid and learn to help themselves as much as possible, because you can't be with them at all times. When like on the playground, for example, when she's hanging out with a bunch of kids and they're all talking, and then all of a sudden they run away and she thinks that they left her and they don't want to play with her. Well, no, really, someone said, let's go play tag, and they ran off and she didn't hear that. Right. So helping her to understand, like, go run up to your closest friend and say, what just happened? Like, what did I miss? Like, don't immediately think they don't want to play with me. Go to somebody that you trust to ask what you miss. Right. And then, so helping her to do those things to fill in like the communication gaps has been important too. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think? I'm going to push the question back on you. Not as I am.
Well, I think, so I think I've talked to another author about this, advocating, and it's something that I've had to learn myself, that as we advocate for ourselves and as we advocate for our kids, then our kids pick up on that, and it becomes easier for them. Like, for instance, I've had, living in another country, living in Norway, where it's difficult for me to understand people who are speaking Norwegian. I've had to advocate for myself and say, is it okay if we speak in English? And that's not always easy. But my wife has kind of pointed that out, that Esther's watching and she's going to see that, and she's going to pick up on that. And so I think it's just so important from that aspect as well, that they learn from our example. And I think it's also a great point, like just teaching them even in preschool and kindergarten, first grade, to have help in the classroom, have help on the playground. I haven't even thought about that. When kids run away, they're just left standing there, to get a little help, get a little push, and say, hey, why don't you go find out what's going on? Yeah, that's great. But advocacy is it just kids with difficulties, or is it every kid? I think we all need to learn how to advocate for ourselves in one way or another. It's so important. So we're going to do something that I like to call the lightning round, just to provide a little pause to the conversation, so to speak. This is called the Coffee and Kidlit Show. Do you drink coffee, Katie?
No, I have my tea though.
You have your tea. Is that your favorite mug?
No, I have this cute mug that says something like "advocate like a mother," which I really like. But this is a good one. It's a nice big one. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So looking back at your childhood, what was your favorite children's book? Or one of them?
Like when I was little, I liked the little critter books. I don't know if you know.
Too.
But and one of the big reasons why is I really liked finding like the grasshopper and the spider and like the little like sidekicks. It probably came into like the look and listen and what I have in my book. But I love that. I like the Berenstain Bears, like I don't know, I don't know. I think those ones are ones that kind of come to mind that I like reading.
Yeah. What was the last book you read to your kids?
Oh, I think it was Fancy Nancy. The girls are obsessed. They love Fancy Nancy. Yeah, so it's probably one of the Fancy Nancy books.
I'm not familiar with that one.
Yeah, no, it's cute. Yeah, it's a whole series. It's a big thing.
That's cool.
TV show and everything. Yeah.
So I just showed this spread from your book. And down in the bottom left, where's the purple cat? And the purple cat is throughout the book. Tell us about the purple cat and why is the cat purple?
Oh man, yeah. So okay, the purple cat is my way of compensating to my son that this book is about Mila. so Luca is older than Mila. He understands when I explained to him about why the book needed to be called Mighty Mila and it's about Mila, but it's not easy. It's not easy. It's just not, it's not easy for him, I guess, in some ways. He's very supportive. He's a great advocate with Mila. He does therapy with her. He's great. But it's just it's tricky to explain to a 7-year-old why you wrote a book about their sibling. So when I was developing this book, it was kind of eating at me a little bit of like worried. Like I was worried that I didn't want to negatively impact my other siblings by writing one about Mila. My other children, not my siblings, my children. And so Luca has been a diehard purple fan since he's been 3 years old. I mean, unwaveringly favorite color, like dark purple. That's like purple, like loves purple. And I love that about him. I love that he loves purple so much. He's still his favorite color by far. And he loves cats, and somehow over time is developed to like a love of purple cats. Like, I mean, he's got several. There's surprisingly a number of purple cat statues and like little figures and toys. It just is, and we have them all.
It's finding them all. Huh?
Yeah, and we have them all. And so when I was creating this book, I wanted to put something in there that was like special. That was special to him, so I built the purple cat in. So I told him, I was like, I'm putting a purple cat in, which is your pet, Luca in the book's pet. And it's funny that shortly after I created the book, we actually ended up getting a cat because we didn't even have a cat in the family. And the book's, the whole family is in the book. And then there's a purple cat, but we didn't have a cat. So now we do. Purple.
Is it purple?
No. Wasn't purple, but she's gray, like a typical cat, but yeah, so people think that the cat is in the book because we have a cat, and the character of the cat came before our real cat, and that's why for Luca.
Yeah, it's funny that you bring that up because after publishing Aiden the Helpers, my wife was like, okay, now you need to publish a book for Aiden. He needs a book too. So my latest book is kind of for him, building blanket forts. That's for him. Good. But
I think that's committed the other night to making one of the next books in the Mighty Mila series about Luca. So I mean, he's already telling me what he wants the book to be about, and so we held to this. So everybody in the future, in a couple of years, there will likely be a Mighty Mila Luca focus book.
Mighty Luca.
Yeah, something.
Maybe we need another adjective or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I have been thinking about it, but I think it's good. I'm going to maybe show things from the perspective of the sibling and how they get involved. So I don't know. This was literally like a conversation last week. So, but he will hold me to it. So, and I want to do something for him, but I only have so much capacity. So,
well, I totally connect with what you've said about Luca and his perspective of the whole thing, because, and this last summer, Esther went without her cochlear implant processors for about a month. And it was hard for all of us because suddenly we realized just how much communication we were missing because of that. And it was hard, especially for Aiden, because he he had not learned so many signs up until that point, and was really struggling with how to communicate with her. And luckily, she was really good at lip reading by then, so she was able to sort of catch on to what he was saying sometimes. But yeah, I totally get that. Siblings, it can be hard on them to adjust, and especially if we're writing books about about the younger sibling. Yeah.
You know, I hope, he understands, and I hope that he will continue to understand as he gets older. But, doesn't mean that I love one of them more than another one. It's just important to do this for children that aren't represented. That's why I say to him, like, look at all the books we have that has, a little boy with your colored skin with brown hair. Like, let's go. Like, well, we have 1 million of them. How many books do we have that have, character with cochlear implants? So he gets it when I explain it in that way. So.
Yeah, that's cool. So getting back to the book, I'm so proud and ecstatic for you for how it's been going. Like, I think last check you had over 300 reviews on Amazon, which is awesome.
Yeah.
You've also racked up a whole shelf full of book awards. First of all, tell us about the awards. I know of at least 3, I guess, but you have more than that.
Yeah, no, I have 6 different awards through 4 different organizations, including Reader's Favorite, Eric Hoffer, IBPA, Ben Franklin, and Wishing Shelf. So it's been just crazy. I mean, it's been really humbling and very exciting to kind of get that, like, external validation of the book, in a way that it's just nice to see that organizations such as these appreciate an inclusive book, and that they like it. I worked, as did you, right? Like, being a self-published author can take many forms, right? You can put anything up onto Amazon these days. So for me, so you get a wide range of quality and of the books out there. And there's so many wonderful self-published books that don't necessarily get the same, I don't know, for lack of a better word, respect or like appreciation as the traditionally published books. And it's not that, and there's so many great ones out there. And I appreciate the fact that these organizations, some of them are specifically for independent books to help highlight ones that are, I guess, notable or whatever, right. Which is nice to be able to show that off in a world of very heavily pushed and marketed traditionally published books by my big publishers, which are all, which are great too. But there's a lot of really good unknown indie books that are really great quality. And I think it's nice that there's organizations out there that either focus specifically on giving awards to independent published books or small published books, or open their award program like Reader's Favorite up to both. Because there are other award programs that don't let independent published books in at all. And it's, the whole decision to go traditional published versus independent published has so many pros and cons both ways. But for me, like, I knew I wanted a very professional book. I knew the illustrated style I really wanted, and I searched for over 3 months for Nadia Sorrell. And I am thankful every day that I found her. She is just, you know her from us working together. She's just so lovely. She's wonderful. And I love that she, I don't know if you know this, Travis, but probably, she's only worked with traditionally published, because she's agented. So she's through an agency, the Sound agency. She's only worked with traditionally published big publishing houses.
Okay.
She looked at my manuscript and she loved the story, and she loved the character, and she has a personal relationship with someone with hearing loss in her family. And she decided to take a chance on working with me, like not like the big publishing house of a million people with art directors and that, but just Katie, like, you're going to work with me. I'm the art director. I am like everything. Like, I'm the marketer. I'm this, I'm that. And so, and it's just been a nice story, because she's told me, she's like, I really like working with you. Like, it's fun. It's fun for her. So I really wanted to have a book that was high quality. And I had seen from Ada and Helpers how much I love your book design, and I love the story, and having you involved as well. So I think that putting out a book that could compete, I'm biased, right? But I could compete visually, and content wise with any of the big traditionally published book. I think it's important. It was important to me, and it's part of the reason why it took a year and a half to get it done, because I really wanted to focus on all of the details and getting it the way that I really wanted it. So it's nice to getting all the, it's very round. I'm too verbose half the time. I need to get to the point, but like, I guess coming back to the point of like, I put a lot of love and time and effort and everything into the book. And it was nice to see the book awards recognize that.
Yeah, I think it's awesome to see so many self-published books get recognized, as you said, but also those with different awareness topics to be recognized and to start winning these awards. Like you said, there's a lot of self-published books out there that, they don't really measure up. But to be able to put out good quality professional books, I think is it's awesome. And to have that ability without having to sign on to a traditional publisher, or, to sign on with an agent, is it's awesome. And, you and I, we were both on the Eric Hoffer Award list, and just to have that recognition of 2 books with cochlear implant characters was that was really awesome. So,
that was so cool.
I'm saying awesome a lot, but
that's typically my word of choice as well.
Right.
So, go back and see how many times both of us said awesome in this episode.
Yeah, it could be a drinking game.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, advice for parents weighing the pros and cons of CIs. What would you say to parents who maybe they just found out their kids have hearing loss, and they're weighing that option?
Well, I'd say first, understand with the medical professional whether they think CIs would be beneficial, because sometimes their anatomy may or may not enable them to work or benefit your child. And assuming that they would be beneficial, I think, oh man, this is it's such a personal decision. It's such an individualized decision based upon everything. But
It is.
I guess for me, I'll speak from my perspective. We wanted, Mila was hearing and then lost her hearing. And she loved music, and we saw how much she loved music. We saw how chatty she was, and how, by the time we got to cochlear implants, like we knew her as like a person. And even when when the hearing loss was identified, going back to kind of earlier, like we didn't really fully realize that she had hearing loss or identify her hearing loss until after she was 1 year old. And in some ways, it was almost easier for us to accept or be comfortable with that she was going to be okay, and that we knew she was going to be okay at that point in time, because we knew her. We knew that she had like a fiery personality, that she was spunky, that she was determined. And so I think that someone has a baby, you don't know them as well yet. Like, you don't know what their personality is going to be like. And so for us, like, we just knew that she was someone that would benefit from all the sounds in the world. And for us, it was nothing's an easy decision, but like, it was we feel the right decision because we wanted to give her access to all of those sounds. I think it is very hard for individuals in the deaf community that don't have access to sound because it is a hearing world. And as people do continue to focus on accessibility, which is great, it is still very hard for deaf individuals to be a part of the world, unfortunately, with just sign language, because not everybody knows sign language. Unfortunately, if everybody could snap my finger and everybody knew sign language, that would be phenomenal, right?
Yeah.
But I think that it's probably hard for individuals to not be able to communicate with everyone that may live around them. We can't communicate with everybody in other countries, right? But like, I think it's little bit it must feel isolating at times. But the deaf community, I understand, has a very strong, wonderful culture. So it's a big decision. I think it's just a decision. Like, if you want your child to have, hearing and be able to hear all the sounds, at some point hearing aids can't do that. I mean, cochlear implants can't really do that. You can't hear all the sounds. Cochlear implants, there's tones and stuff that are missed. It's not as complex as acoustic hearing, but it is more than with the hearing aids at the severe and profound level of deafness. So it just depends on your circumstances and what you think is best for yourself or for your child.
Yeah, and I can see.
How would you respond? This is a tricky question, Travis.
It is a very tricky question, because it is a controversial question in the deaf community, and it is Deaf Awareness Week. So I think it's an important conversation to have. A lot of people in the deaf community are very opinionated about cochlear implants, and rightly so. I think they do have a tight community, and in a way, I can see that maybe giving a child cochlear implants is kind of taking them away from that community in a way. And but for a child who was already hearing, like Mila was, to be able to restore at least part of that hearing for her, I think is so important. But you and I both, I think we are both on the same agreement that there's no right or wrong answer to this. It's really just up to your family and your own needs and what your child needs and all of that. Your child, whether they have cochlear implants or not, can flourish. There is a community available for them, and they can have a normal life, so to speak, no matter what. And I think you, Katie, much like we were scared to death when we first found out, because we didn't have any deaf family members. We didn't have anyone anywhere close to us that had any experience with this. So it was a shocking experience, but I don't know where I was going with that, but but you understand. Yeah,
I like what you said too about, and that's a good point, right? No matter what, your child can flourish. The most important thing, I think, is that they have the support and that they have access to communication, right? I think that is where what you don't want to happen is for a child not to hear and not have access to sign language then, because they don't have access to communication. I think that's where they become limited. They have access to a language, whether it's, listening and spoken language, or if it's sign language, or if it's a combination of both. Then they can achieve anything they want to, or try to achieve. They'll just do it in a different way, right? So I think that it is just a very personal choice, and there is no right or wrong answer. And for us, in my mind, I said, you know what? if Mila ever decided that she doesn't want to use her cochlear implants, she can take them off and we can all exist with, and we'll learn sign language. Like, and that is completely something that she could decide growing up. And if she does, great. Like, we're more than supportive of whatever she wants to do. But if we didn't decide to get her cochlear implants and she tried to get them later on in life, it would have been much, much, much harder for her to be able to develop language and speech. So, you know, I think that that was part of our decision as well.
Yeah. And to those parents out there who are facing this decision and they're worried about whether their kids will do well with cochlear implants or all that, you know, every kid is different. There are times when the implants are rejected by the body for some reason or another. But for the most part, when kids receive those implants early in life, when they're babies, they tend to do very well. And like you said, your Mila is a spunky, energetic little girl, just as Esther is. It's funny how much they are alike, and they both love unicorns and rainbows and pink and all those things. And they both love music. Esther somehow got Esther into bluegrass recently. She loves listening to bluegrass, and she loves singing and making up her own songs and all of that. It's so fun to listen to. Okay, so Katie, as an author, what would you say to other people who are wanting to write their first book, their first children's book, or publish their first book? What kind of advice would you give them?
I'd say find a community of other authors, whether it's on, you know, some great Facebook communities to join, to just learn, hear from others, chat with others. I did an incredible 12-week author course with other new authors where we were guided through kind of the steps of creating a book, which was so helpful and helped me get to know others. I'm happy to share that information if anyone wants to reach out. Don't cut corners in terms of what you want and what you feel, how great you feel the book can be. You know, it can be very pricey creating a book. And there are ways that you can do it with less money, but lower quality. And that doesn't mean you need to spend an astronomical amount on a book, but keep looking. For example, like if you are, you know, just make sure you're getting the quality for the money that you're spending, right? There's all different levels of illustrators. Find someone that you love. And if you feel that that person is just the one that's going to bring that book to life, if you have to save a little more, maybe you can talk to them about kind of making, you know, maybe you make the pictures a little less detailed, or maybe you do a few less like spot illustrations and you do some more double spread, like there's ways to kind of get some of the costs down. Like, but I guess don't sacrifice like your vision for what the book could be. And just keep, you know, hold tight to like to creating something that you think is really something wonderful that you are proud of and that you can put out into the hands of, you know, kids, and that you can look back on and saying like, this is exactly how I wanted this to be. And if it takes a little longer to do the work, or takes a little longer to just, you know, maybe save a little bit more, like it might be worth it. But I would say, yeah, like just start learning as much as you can. I learned so much from like Facebook author groups, but I'm still learning all the time. There's lots of resources out there.
Absolutely. And speaking of publishing and writing, you have a sequel. Mm-hmm. Tell us quickly about the sequel to Mighty Mila.
Yeah, so Mighty Mila Dream Job is going to be a sequel. It's currently in illustration right now. It is about Mila exploring what she wants to be when she grows up, and she's going to have career day at school. She needs to figure it out. She tries a whole ton of things, loves everything, and pretty much has a little bit of a breakdown and conflict of what does she want to choose when she grows up. And it's a fun story with a fun ending. And the illustrations are just ridiculously good. Nadia is just hitting it out of the park. They're even more detailed than the last illustrations. They're going to have the same kind of listening games, look and listen at the end. And it's going to be fun. It's a really fun book. So that's going to be coming out in early 2023, likely February timeframe.
Awesome. And I've seen some of the illustrations. They are, more of the awesome same illustrations from the first book. Not same illustrations, but Nadia's awesomeness.
Yeah.
Everybody take a drink. So and I just want to highlight some of the ways that we are sort of celebrating Deaf Awareness Week, not only with this conversation that Katie and I have had today, but also all of our books are 25% off on our websites, mightymila.com or launchmissioncreative.com, which is the name of my channel here. You can find my books there. We're also going to be a part of a giveaway on the 26th through the 28th of September. I just want to show this quickly. We are teaming up with lots of other authors with books about hearing loss or characters with hearing loss. We have, of course, Katie and my books, as well as Listen, How Evelyn Glennie, a Deaf Girl, Changed Percussion by Shannon Stalker, Canberra Ski by Raymond Antrobus, My Monster Truck Goes Everywhere With Me by Kathleen Markath, and El Defo by CC Bell. Some awesome books in this giveaway. And so the way you can get that is, those instructions are coming later. So just come follow either Katie or myself on Facebook or Instagram. I'm sure we will be sharing all of the rules and details of how to win these 6 awesome books. So look forward to that in just a few days. Yeah. Did I say awesome again? Yeah. So once again, actually my book, Ada and the Helpers, is free on Amazon. The ebook is free on Amazon right now. The link is in the description. Katie's book, I accidentally thought hers was the same, but she's
probably just forgot to put it free. I'm sorry.
she quickly went in. She quickly went in and scheduled it for later this week, I believe.
Yes, so the 21st and 22nd of September. So if you're watching this now, it's going to be what day is it? Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. 21st and 22nd. Yeah.
So tomorrow and the next day, if you're watching this live, you can get Mighty Mila for free for the ebook, and those links are all in the description. Thank you so much for watching. Katie, thank you so much for joining me on the Coffee and Kidlit Show. It was so good to reconnect with you again. Absolutely.
We'll be talking about book design for book 2 very soon.
Absolutely. Yeah. Looking forward to that. And then next week on the Coffee and Kidlit Show, I'm going to have Patty DeDurr, I believe I'm saying it right. And she is the author of This Kid. You know, I thought I had a copy and I can't find it anywhere. This Kid Can Hyperfocus.
Very good. That's a good book. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think my kids have stolen it. They've taken off with it somewhere. But anyways, join me next week for that episode. All right. Thanks so much, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you. Bye.